Pro-life of Reddit, what should we do with the unwanted children that would otherwise be aborted? I'm not necessarily pro-life in all cases, but in most, I am. If you can't afford a kid, there are lots of options before an abortion to prevent a child. Condoms being one, and relatively inexpensive. Plan B also exists. Adoption being a foster home needs to be easier. My parents were looking to adopt or foster kids when I was leaving for college and they ultimately gave up. They had been to a few meetings with our local services. My parents definitely make enough money, and have 2 spare bedrooms available, 3 if you include mine, what used to be mine, and plenty of time on their hands. I don't think people realize that there are more people who want to adopt than children up for adoption. The reason there are so many children in foster care is because their biological parents want to have custody but can't for various reasons. Foster care does not exist because there are unwanted children. I don't have an opinion on the abortion debate. I just think it's impossible for me to answer in a truly informed way. But there is not an epidemic of unwanted children, that is for sure. If abortion was outlawed, there is more than enough people who would love to adopt. Well, I'm kind of in the middle. I agree fully with medically necessary abortions. I just think between the numerous contraceptives available and Plan B, that if you're getting knocked up accidentally, you're probably really irresponsible. That said, accidents do happen, so I think you should get one freebie abortion, and your second comes with a tubal because murdering babies isn't birth control. If you can't have sex responsibly, then something needs to be done about that. I don't think medically necessary abortion should count towards the limit though. I hate the unwanted argument because people like me have no problem expanding upon the termination of unwanted people. I'm pragmatic and amoral, so I just see this as a green light to start removing undesirables. While my definition of an undesirable is not specific to any ideology, it's no less horrible and villainy. I'm pro-choice for this very reason. Unwanted people that are potentially socio-economic drains should be terminated. Like I said, this is horrible, don't give people like me precedent. Obviously, we should cut all state and federal funding for welfare programs that support low-income families and early childhood development. Let's also shoot down ideas like free school lunches, and make sure to reduce the pool of potential adopters by using religion as a criteria. The same people who vote pro-life tend to support these things, or vote for the politicians who support these things, so clearly they don't care about the kids once they're born. They're not pro-life, they're pro-birth. For starters, whether or not you wanted your child or change your mind about wanting children at any point, you still have an obligation to care for them. So I guess I recommend sucking it up and doing your duty as a parent. But if you absolutely cannot or will not do that, then put them up for adoption because there are many families who do want kids out there. Finally, I do not see not wanting a child as a valid reason to kill them at any stage of life from zygote to all the way geriatric. Unwanted unplanned pregnancies carry to term often don't end with unloved children. The one reason people report seeking abortion is because of financial instability. We need to expand social safety nets, paid parental leave for both partners, affordable free healthcare, childcare, expand free breakfast lunch at schools. Even if we remove all barriers to abortion nationwide, we should still do everything listed above and the number of abortions in this country will plummet. First off, they are not pro-life. The correct term is forced birthers because that's exactly what they are and want. Second, since they don't believe in consent, the unwanted children shall be adopted by everyone who is against abortion, aka women's healthcare. Third, if the mother or baby ends up dying during the forced birth, all costs, including mental health care of families, funerals, hospital bills, etc. shall be paid in full by forced birthers. Fun fact, the amount of couples wanting to adopt a baby vastly outnumbers the amount of babies that are available. Also, it is incredibly rare for a woman to bring a baby to term and then decide she still doesn't want the baby after it born. It's very easy to put a child up for adoption in the US, and most women who experience unexpected motherhood do not choose adoption. This idea that all these kids are gonna end up being unwanted is a myth. I plan on adopting. I don't know how many yet. I want to also put forth that a byproduct of having sex is getting pregnant. So maybe don't risk it. And of course, if you're impregnated because of an assault, I would want to take you and your child under a covering, surrounding you with compassionate people and resources that can help with the child rearing part. But of course, nobody wants to be charitable. Certainly not the pro-abortion folks. The forced birth crowd claims it's a human as soon as it has a heartbeat. If I were a woman being forced to carry an unwanted person inside me, I would demand compensation from the state, say on the order of $1 million or so. Alternatively, the government can remove the human fetus, keep it alive, and do whatever they feel they need to do. Those are the choices: compensate me or take immediate custody. Otherwise, fuck off, fuck's sake. There's a whole other conversation that needs to happen before a woman even gets pregnant, excluding rape, let alone needs to choose an abortion. We ought to be focusing on preventing unwanted pregnancy rather than pissing into the wind and trying to dodge the piss that's flying back into your face. That is to say, there's a shit ton of choices that can be made to avoid the abortion question altogether. Pro-lifers should be legally bound to taking in children whose parents wanted an abortion and don't want to or can't take care of the children themselves. If they're gonna take rights away, they need to be directly responsible for the consequences. Also, anytime a mother who dies because they have no access to an abortion, ironically that blood is on pro-lifers' hands and they should be held responsible for that too. Raise and support the child. You can't afford a child, you should have either used protection, birth control, or not had sex. While I am not a fan of birth control pills or IUDs, women have tons of options for not getting pregnant. Abstinence is proven to be a 100% effective method of birth control. Just wait till artificial wombs become a thing. Then women won't have a way to justify getting an abortion. I never see responsibility in this argument. Men and women need to stop having unprotected sex if they are not ready for a baby. We need to teach teens how big a deal sex is in its proper place in solid relationships. It is a serious commitment and should only be done between people who are serious about each other. Personal responsibility goes a long way in preventing unwanted pregnancy. Although I'm not pro-life, my brother is adamant that all children should have access to free healthcare, education, food, and housing. Literally have nothing to want for until they are adults, when they should hopefully start taking care of themselves with the skills and knowledge that has been given. I happen to agree, albeit I wish it didn't stop at kids. Still, baby steps, I suppose. I'm conservative but pro-choice. I too would really like to know what the expectation is for those who are forced into birthing a baby they don't want or cannot take care of. Foster care is an absolute shit show. Adoption can be a daunting endeavor for most people. The plan is to outlaw abortion but not fix these other areas that may be overrun with kids. Great idea. I'm not pro-life, but my brother who is staunchly pro-life says that every child deserves free healthcare, school, food, and housing. Literally one for nothing until they are adults, and then hopefully with the skills knowledge that's been provided, begin taking care of themselves. I happen to agree, only wish that it extended beyond just kids, but baby steps I guess. Please reread what I said. The pressure comes from the African American community who try to guilt white adopting families. It is becoming a deterrent. However, one certainly can understand why a family would prefer ethnic homogeneity. It is not necessarily a negative thing. A Desi family who can't have kids is justified in wanting to only adopt a Desi child. I hope you realize abortion was a normal and accepted part of medicine until it was twisted to gain political gain. Do some homework. Oh, and racism. Racism fueled anti-abortion mentality. We needed all the white babies we could get to fight immigration. This is not flawed logic. It isn't a lie. This is how it happened. Mind your fucking business. If these children are truly unwanted, then put them up for adoption. The number of babies available for adoption will drive the outrageous cost of adoption down. It will also help keep adoption in the country, helping keep international adoption scams to a minimum. Which has happened to myself, a friend, and several people I know by acquaintance. They should become desperate parents that are easily exploited in the workforce as cheap dispensable labor that invariably raise the next generation of easily exploited labor that will follow right along in their parents' footsteps since they were left with no time to raise them properly. That is the actual plan. The quiet part said out loud. And would you agree to the tax increases necessary to make that happen? This topic is my most frequent counterpoint to people who believe capitalism can cure all ills. It's great for scaling industry and solving inefficiencies, but there will never be any money in orphans. Barring some modest proposal type stuff, significant subsidies for daycare would be a good start. Private, quality daycare costs thousands per month. Most couples cannot afford this and should receive vouchers so they can. Just because people are poor or middle class doesn't mean they should put their kids in high-risk, unlicensed daycare. Teach them how to use contraceptives if they aren't ready to prevent them from having a kid that might struggle for years with the idea that the biological parents abandoned it. And as for the kids, give them free education and healthcare. It's what taxes are for, but governments are so shitty. Pro-lifers regularly tout adoption as the answer to this question with no fucking idea what they're talking about, while also ducking the fact that the systems and infrastructure surrounding adoptable children must be able to protect, support, and educate them even if nobody adopts them. Adoption also make the adoption process cheaper while also quadrupling punishment for abuse. My wife and I are trying to adopt, and the process has cost us $35,000 in lawyer fees so far. It's immensely expensive. If it wasn't, we would have adopted 4 kids already. Those are the people meant to pick vegetables and fill prisons. Don't get me wrong, a couple will make it out, but that is akin to winning the lottery after all the roadblocks they ensure are in place. They are only pro-life so they can get cheap labor. That is it. Well, once they're forced to give birth, magic hormones will kick in and women will change their minds. It's almost instant. Oh, and then money will rain down from the sky, or they'll get a part-time that will pay all the bills. It's pretty simple, really. Yes, simple. We raise them to be professional jury members. Think about it, no more bias, no more jury duty excuses, and a whole new industry is born. Your kid didn't turn out to be the next Mozart? That's fine, they can still have a career in judging people. Option 1. Tell the parents to raise the child if at all possible. No one is ever ready, emotionally, financially, etc., to be a parent. It is always on-the-job training. Option 2. Recommend an adoption agency. Many people are looking to adopt children that people banning abortion need to be adopting, fostering, tithing, etc. for their decisions on how to vote. Make them contribute 10-20% of the wealth to the cause of actually supporting the baby, kid, young adult, and many would vote differently.